Sponsored by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. We bring now Nick Wright, co-host First Things First. Also here on Sirius XM Radio every day. Okay, Nick, Howard Stern and Tom Brady, they did the interview. It was 2 hours long. There were some, little juicy tidbits in there. Let's start with this. Tom Brady at one point talked about, quote, "I never really had a backup plan." What did that mean to you?
I loved it so much, Colin. It was my favorite part of the whole interview, and thanks for having me on. Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Did you ever have a backup plan?
Nope. This was it. 8 years old on.
Yep. Listen, I'm not trying to compare myself to Tom Brady, but me too. I applied to one school, Syracuse, because when I was 12 years old, I was told this is where you should go. If this is what you want to do. My parents berated me about it. I said, I think I'm going to get in. If I don't get in, I'll go be a fireman like my dad was. This was the only thing. And I know this is a polarizing take, and some people say this is not the approach you should take. I think if you are trying to be the best in the world at something, it's the only approach you can take. Yeah. And so I love it. I loved that from Tom, and I loved the honesty from Tom.
When I listened to the interview, the other thing was Tom, and I love this quote, is that Tom Brady's like, I never, as a high school quarterback, thought about legacy. That's just not how I'm built. And I think with Tom, who's got this wide, loving family, this big social net, he's very close with teammates. He doesn't worry about that. And I think it's hard when you're a young broadcaster, young quarterback. Your legacy's perhaps not formed, so you're more insecure about it. But when I heard that from Tom, he's like, listen, I went to Tampa because I don't care about my legacy. I love that quote. Did you?
Well, I think you probably don't think about legacy at the very beginning. And I think when you're close to the very end, if you're Brady, you're so secure in your legacy, it doesn't matter. I think, what was Tom Brady thinking of his legacy in 2013 when Peyton Manning was throwing 55 touchdowns when Brady hadn't won a Super Bowl in a decade and Manning was going on this run with the Broncos? I'm guessing at that point, Brady cared a lot about legacy. And that's not a knock on him at all, right? I think now that he's got 6, he's lapped the field, everyone acknowledges he's the greatest ever, then I think it's circled back around to high school to where he doesn't care about legacy. But I think there was a point in time, and if you remember those emails that unfortunately for Tom, we got to see between he and his father during the Deflategate scandal, where they talk about Peyton, and Brady says, he's got 1 or 2 years left. I've got 6 or 7 years left. Game on. I mean, that's a legacy discussion in real time. And by the way, Brady was proven correct on that. So I believe him that he doesn't currently care about it. But I think at some point he absolutely did, and I don't begrudge him that at all.
The all-decade team came out this week. Brady and Aaron Rodgers were the quarterbacks, and I agree with that. But I do think perception, thank God, is not reality. The reality is, in the last 8 years, Russell Wilson has not missed a start. He has worked with worse offensive lines, and I think he's a better teammate and better quarterback that's made every tight end and receiver and lineman work. He's better in 8 years, the last 8 than Aaron Rodgers, and much healthier and can beat you more ways. But I do think Aaron Rodgers, over 10 years, he's got a Super Bowl win and he's got his best statistical year, is the all-decade quarterback. But the difference is Brady's been in Rodgers has been in GOAT conversations. Russell Wilson's never received a single MVP vote. The perception is Rodgers is a top 5 ever, and Russell's just kind of a small, quirky, fantastic athlete who's always had a great coach. I think they're much closer than advertised. What say you?
Listen, one of the things you and I are in lockstep on is that Russell Wilson is the most underappreciated, truly great player of this generation. Now, part of that is because you have certain people, I can't quite remember who, always promoting Andrew Luck over Russell Wilson, but we don't need to get into old stuff. Listen, Rodgers has the last 3 years, Rodgers has not been a great quarterback week in, week out, while Russell Wilson, arguably the last 3 years, has been the best he's ever been. And so Russell Wilson is in his prime, if not peaking. Rodgers is trying to hold on to the backside of it. But yes, because if a 10-year award goes to Aaron Rodgers, a 7 or 8 year award goes to Russell Wilson, and a 3-year award obviously goes to Patrick Mahomes, but nobody's doing that.
I knew you had to sneak that curveball in.
Yeah.
Nick Wright is joining us. I believe the NBA, and I said this yesterday, this is kind of long, and I won't bore you, but in Hollywood, Matt Damon can do 2 or 3 movies and then disappear for 5 years. So can Denzel, so can, Morgan Freeman, so can Tom Hanks. But then 4 or 5 years later, they come back, do 2 or 3 movies, and once again, because they're stars, and we love stars, they're the most popular actor in Hollywood. Baseball doesn't have stars. The NBA is driven by them. I believe baseball cannot withstand 18 months of no games. I do think the NBA could withstand no season because it's star-driven. If Matt Damon's got a new movie, damn it, I'm watching it. And if Kevin Durant, Steph are back, I'm watching it. So they have a big advantage over baseball. I think they're going to get in. Yesterday, Adam Silver basically saying Labor Day is the cutoff point, which I love about Adam Silver. That really was encouraging to me because that told me they don't really even have to start practicing till mid-June and start playing till July. So I think an NBA season's going to happen. I do today. Do you?
I do. Now, I will admit, part of it is because I don't want to wrap my mind around the idea of it not happening. And so I agree. I had the exact same reaction as you. As Silver giving, it sounds bad, it sounds weird. That's Silver saying a date that if they're not in by, they won't play being a good thing. The fact that he said Labor Day, I thought the exact same thing. Okay, so that means you could have 10 days of the regular season if you wanted at the end of June just as a warm-up, and then the full 2 months of the playoffs in July and August.
Yep.
And still get this thing in. The only issue I will take with what you were saying about the NBA being okay if they don't get it in, of course they'll be okay. But I'm going to later or next week, in the next couple weeks on First Things First, shameless plug, I'm going to go through LeBron's 10 greatest playoff games ever. And in researching that, I realized, the dude's got 40 playoff games that arguably could make the list. Why do I bring that up? We didn't get to see LeBron in the playoffs last year. If they don't have a playoffs this year, we won't get to see it. And then you're into year 18, and while I've never been in the business of doubting LeBron, then you are one tweaked groin away from what? LeBron not being in the playoffs again, and then wait. Was the last great LeBron playoff moment the 51-point game one, and then we never see him in the postseason again? Like, if you miss this postseason, that door starts to open. And I think the NBA is so tied still to LeBron, it's very important this year gets in some way, shape, or form.
Nick Wright, co-host, First Things First. How's your family in Los Angeles? We drive to work. We don't have a dynamic subway system. And we haven't had quite the intensity of the hospitalization scares that New York City has. In New York City today, Nick, how do you feel, the safety, you and your family?
Listen, I'll give the good and the bad of it. The bad is it is scary as far as we try to get outside to go on a family walk, and the streets are vacant, and the only sounds are, honestly, every minute and a half to 2 minutes you hear either a faint or a loud ambulance siren. That's scary. There's lines for the grocery store, and everyone's wearing masks. It feels weird. The good of it is this. I live nowhere near a hospital. Nowhere near a medical facility. Every day at 7 o'clock, my entire neighborhood in Harlem goes out on the porch and starts clapping. They're not even clapping for any medical providers. It's just like a citywide show of support, whether you're near a hospital or not. And it has, at least for me, selfishly, given me a month home with my daughters that I otherwise never would get. So I'm trying. You have been and I want to give you a compliment in this regard. Twitter is always kind of more doom and gloom than it should be unless live sports are on, but particularly during this pandemic. Your Twitter feed has been a constant source of whatever positive information there is out there, which I appreciate. And so I do think we're going to get to the other side of this eventually, but I can't lie to you. It is a surreal experience being here in New York City these last 30 days.
Give your family love, your wife. Nick, thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.